Alright, all like the title suggests, in today's video we have an unboxing and overview for you. Today we have the Corsair 4000D airflow case. We're going to be taking it out of the box and running down through the specs for you here. I want to give you my first impression of it and see if it's going to give you what you need for that next gaming computer build. So let's get into it and take this thing out of the box and see what it offers. Alright guys, first thing we need to do is get this thing out of the box here. So let's get laid down here. We'll get the tape cut here on the box. Take it out of the box, take styrofoam off over here. There's your owner's manual for it. Alright, now since we got it out of the box here, we'll start out with this pretty front panel over here. It is in a high airflow case. It's got like a triangle design to it here in the front with a bunch of little triangles to get you that airflow. And behind this here, which I'll show you here in a second, it will hold up to 3 120mm fans or 2 140mm fans, or if you're going with the radiator like I'm going to be doing, it will fit up to a 360mm or 280mm in the front. And of course you could also put a 120 in there if you'd like. Let's see how this front panel pops off. There we go. It's pretty thick metal. Seems pretty substantial. By looking at the back of it, you got 4 little pegs to push into it that holds that onto it. And it does have a little lip down here for some reason, which is kind of a good thing. It means you can't get it upside down. You do have a little bit of a Corsair logo right there on the front of it. And behind that you do have a dust filter here that should pop out for easy cleaning, easy access to it. It does have one 120 fan included. And to be able to take this gray housing off around the outside perimeter of the face of it here, the front of it, you need to take 2 screws out of the bottom and it should pull right off, which you should never need to do that. I mean, you can get clear access to your air filter. You got clear access to it to be able to put your fans into it. So you should never need to take that gray housing off. Okay, by looking at the top of it here, you do have a included dust filter that's held on by a magnet. Got a little yellow tab here if we can pull up on it, which kind of looks like the case has got some yellow accents on it. The top's got that same triangle looking pattern to it. And on the top here, it looks like we can fit 2 120mm fans or 2 140mm fans. If you're going for radiator support on the top, which I'm hoping to be able to do, it says you can fit 280 if you use Corsair LPX RAM, which is the low RAM kit, or you can fit 240 radiator on the top of it. As far as your front I/O goes, you got the power button, USB 3.0, Type A port, then you got a 3.0 with a Type C port, then you got the headphone and audio jack. You only got one of those. And you have a reset button. Me personally, I don't have no Type C connector stuff, and I don't think I have that on my motherboard. But, you know, I think I'd rather have a few more USB 3 Type A ports because it's still more common than the Type C port. But I guess it ain't a game changer. And your USB Type A port right there is colored in yellow, just like the yellow tag was on the filter of it. All right, guys, we'll get into the main chamber over here. You take the 2 thumb screws out. They do come completely out. There we go. Got the little tab here on top and bottom. Kind of pull it out. It's in there pretty good. You swing it out. As you can tell, it does have a metal frame around the glass, which it don't seem like there's any tint to the glass, which is a good thing. I don't like the tinted ones. That's pretty see-through. And they got 3 little tabs, 4 little tabs here in the front that goes into these slots that holds it on. So it's on there pretty good, pretty secure, especially for the first time taking it off. And when I was taking these thumb screws off, I noticed they have a little bit of a yellow accent around the thumb screws here as well, between the threads and the actual thumb port of the screw. Inside of the case here, you have the full basement shroud here at the bottom. Got a little bit of a Corsair 4000D logo right here at the front of it. This thing will fit micro ATX all the way up to EXT, or the extended motherboard format. To be able to fit the extended motherboard in it, you will have to take this brace right here, which is a cable management. It helps hide some of the cables. You will have to take it and slide it back into the farthest slot to be able to use an EXT board in this case. It looks like most of the standoffs is pre-installed for you if you're using a full-size ATX case, which is pretty nice. That middle one does have a stub on it that holds it, so it actually ain't a screw. It looks like it's got quite a few cutouts for cable management. There's all one big slip back here, which we'll see in a minute. You got a couple down at the bottom for your bottom routing. You do have 7 expansion slots. Got 7 expansion slots back here, which is pretty typical on a full-size case. You have it does have the GPU vertical mount here, which by looking at that, it looks like it's going to be sitting awful close to the glass, which means that may not be the best solution for a vertical mount, but it does have that option for you. Now you get your motherboard cut out back here, and another pre-installed 120mm fan. And back here on this brace that covers up some of the cable management, it also has Corsair written on it with a little yellow square on it. I'm not too sure on why the yellow's on the case. Around the back over here, there's your fan mount for your 120mm fan. That's all it'll fit. It won't fit a 140 in the back. I'm not too sure why they decided to go with the gray expansion slot covers instead of white or black, but they did go with gray with this case. I think that's because it is a white case. It does filter at the bottom. It does have the plastic frame around it, which is pretty nice for your PSU, which we'll look at that here in a second once we get done here. Down here's your regular PSU mounting system. You slide the PSU in from the back, slide in, put your 4 screws in. So there ain't no extra brackets or anything you gotta take off to mount to your PSU before putting it in. The bottom shouldn't be a whole lot to talk about. We'll flip it up here. And there's that dust filter I showed you for your PSU. It does only cover up the PSU. I'm going to assume this here's your drive cage down here for your 2.5 inch, 3.5 inch drives, which can be, looks like it can be moved up to this slot if you need more room. Which we'll get into that when we take the back panel off. Which you can tell right there where your PSU fan goes. It's got the triangle looking shapes to it again, just like the front panel. And right here on top of the shroud, it looks like it's got the same pattern to it, the same triangle pattern. It's on top in the front, and it covers that same pattern on the back over the top of the 120 fan. Looks like you got a slot here for 2 cages for your 2.5 inch SATA drives. All right, let's take the back panel off. Just like the front, you take the thumb screws out, you pull it to the side, and it comes off. It's got the same mechanisms on this panel that the other glass panels got on it. So I'm assuming them is going to be interchangeable. I think they mentioned somewhere that they can be interchanged if you want to put the glass on the back side of for some reason, which I don't know who would want to do that. Okay, in the back here you have two SSD mounts for your two-sided drives back here. Down here is your 3.5-inch drive bay. You can fit two of those in there. And like I figured, you got two thumbnails here, two thumb screws here that you take out. You can move that drive sled. It looks like you can move it towards the front of the case if you need more room for your PSU. Or you can leave it like that if you want to be putting a radiator in the front of it. It does have quite a few tie downs for your cable management. There is no grommets on the cutouts, but they are kind of funky looking cutouts, maybe that's why. Got a nice big cutout on the back. It's pretty common nowadays. That way if you need to put in an aftermarket air cooler or AIO in your system after you have it built, you can have access to that back plate. Looks like it's going to have quite a bit of room for cable management, which is getting to be pretty common as well. It does have a track to help you with your cable management. Let's see here in the front. For your front panel hookups, you do have your Type-C, USB Type-C, your power button, your reset button, that's your power button. Power LED, so it does have an LED light in the front of it for your power. You got a reset switch, your power switch. You have your USB 3 connector, which is all black, which is nice. Don't have that funky blue to it. You got your HD audio, which it still has the ketchup mustard, just like most cases do. They still have the ketchup mustard for the front audio. Pull the drive sleds out, you just push in the two things on the side and pull them out, slide them out, which is pretty common nowadays. I'll pull them to the side a little bit here, get your box of goodies out. Unlike most 3.5-inch drives, it does have screw holes in the bottom for your 2.5-inch drive, so you can have two 2.5-inch up here and two more 2.5-inch down here in the bottom. If you opt to keep your 3.5-inch drive sleds in. And we got the box of goodies here. Let's see what they give us in the box of goodies. They did give us 3 more Velcro straps for cable management, just like these looks like, which is pretty cool. So they give you 6 of them in total, the 3 that's on the case and 3 extra ones. We have quite a few zip ties for cable management, a couple extra standoffs there. They do have your screws kind of organized for you here somewhat. Them looks like the hard drive screws. They're a little bit more coarse threaded screws. And looks like you got some small washers there for something. There's some smaller screws. I'm gonna say that's probably for your SSDs. And there's some more screws. Looks like your motherboard screws. And they gave you a couple extra thumb screws. Not really sure why they give you a couple extra thumb screws with the case, but they did. I'm always looking at the bottom. I did mention it, but them feet are pretty high. You're looking at probably an inch and a half clearance. So you got plenty of room at the bottom of it between the table surface and the bottom of your case. That way you got plenty of airflow for your PSU. And this bracket here, if you're using an ETX motherboard, if you need to move that back, there is a screw back here in the back that I noticed. There's a wee little screw right here you're going to have to take out to move that back. Then you can replace it back here in this hole. If you're using a bigger motherboard than an ATX motherboard, which I don't think a whole lot of people are using them. Let's see how these SSD mounts work. Unscrew it there, and they do lift up. That is a pretty common mounting solution for SSDs. You will have to put this 4 screws in the back of the SSD to mount these. And just like I figured, them are replaceable. You can put them from the back of the case here like they come. Or you can have 2 spots here in the front where you can mount them in the front if you want your SSD in the front. So in total, with the way this case is set up and it comes out of the box, you can have up to 4 SSDs and two 3.5-inch hard drives, because they do include 2 sleds for SSDs. Or you can have 4 SSDs and no hard drives. If you want to keep the hard drive sleds in, you can put your SSDs in there. Alright guys, that's pretty well the unboxing and the overview part of it. Let me get reset up here and I will come up with a conclusion to the video for you guys. Alright, all of the few things I forgot to mention when I was taking this thing out of the case, which it is pretty important. Your max GPU length is 360 millimeters. That's how long your GPU can be to fit inside this case. Your max CPU cooler height, if you're going to go with a tall air cooler in this case, it needs to be below 170 millimeters. The max PSU length is 180 millimeters. The dimensions of this case is 18.35 by 9.06 by 17.83. And the total weight of this case is 17.31 pounds. I'm not too sure. When I was taking this thing out of the case, I pointed out the few pieces of yellow that Corsair's put on this case. I'm not too sure why they went with yellow, but they are very small accents of yellow, like the tab on the dust filter on top, the little rings that goes around your thumb screws for your back panels and for your SSD trays, and there's a little yellow spot there, just a little yellow square actually, on that support that they give you there to help cover up some of that cable management coming from the back of your case. I'm not too sure why they got these little things of yellow, but they are there, and if it is going to be something that's going to bother you, you know, maybe you need to look at a different case. But I think it'll be alright. Them little splashes of yellow don't mean a whole lot to me. Like I showed you, it does come with two 120 millimeter fans. I'm not too sure on why they added these fans. I'd rather have seen them keep the fans and knock $10 off the case, off the price of the case, instead of adding them fans. Because if you're going to go with this caliper of case, you're going to have your own solution for your fans. All the dust filters is fairly easy to remove. You know, when you pull that front fan straight off, pull it up out, it comes out pretty easily. The PSU filter on the bottom comes off easy. They add that magnetic one on top, which that would be most likely an exhaust for you. And I still ain't too sure on why companies add these, because they really ain't needed if they're going to be an exhaust. But it is there for you. It's kind of nice that they did add it. It seems to be made out of pretty sturdy metal. There ain't no grommets on the holes, but like I mentioned when I was taking it out of the box and showed you the grommets on it, or the cutouts for the holes for your cable mounting, I have a feeling they didn't add grommets because they ain't your typical shaped cutouts for running wires. So they'd have to go to the extra expense of making them grommets special for this case. I think that's why they didn't add them into this case. But there is plenty of room for your cable management behind the motherboard tray. There is plenty of cutouts to get your cables from behind the motherboard tray up into the front of your case to hook them up. I think this is a pretty good solid case. I think Corsair's did a pretty good job on this one. I did go with white. I am going to be doing a build in this case. I'm going to be putting my system over into it. That's why I went with white, because my motherboard's got a lot of white accents on it. And I also ordered white extension cables. So I'm going to be taking my build up to kind of a mostly white build. If you like this kind of content, make sure you go down and give me a like. If not, there's that dislike button. There's that comment section below. I go through them every Saturday here on my live stream, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Saturday mornings. If you really like this kind of content, maybe hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on. That way you're notified next time I put out a video. I'll go live here on YouTube. Also, if you'd be interested, I'm on Instagram and Twitter. I don't kill your inbox, but I do put up photos of new stuff I have coming in to kind of give you an idea of what's going on with the channel, what's coming up on the channel. And if there's anything about my live stream, if I got to cancel, change the date or time of it, that's where you also get them notifications. But with all that being said, you all have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video or live stream.